Party picture, all the ultimates kind of stacking up on top of each other, the Emperor's Divide into the Impale with the Equalizer over the top. I mean, that's just a recipe for success if executed properly. We'll see what EDG want to wrap up their composition with. Again, the Xiaohao Xin Zhao has been something that has been very popular for him specifically. It's going to be Angel piloting the Taliyah. Now, obviously not the full team fighting hard damage AD carry, or sorry, mid laner that somebody like Angel we've kind of anticipated him playing, but this is something that he is very, very popular, that he really, really enjoys. A 15-6 record overall in his career on this pick. So he is very, very good on it, was obviously very prevalent on it when he was back on teams like Suning, which he did pretty well on back in the day.
You can see a little bit of focus down towards the bottom sides now, specifically the bot laners, right? We haven't seen either of these bot lanes be picked through. And the Kalista, very strong at the moment, wins out in lanes, and I think that's what LGD would like for themselves, right? Azir usually goes pretty neutral into lanes, especially into that Taliyah. Same sort of thing with the Rumble, where into the Sion, again, your lane's been neutralized out. If you want somewhere to go ganks, want somewhere to go and be aggressive in, you kind of need your bot lane to be strong at the moment. Things that have been dominating in the bot lane have been the Kalista, the Draven, and the Kai'Sa. Not sure that this is a full Kai'Sa angle here for LGD, but it is certainly possible.
You already have enough like long range, just like deep, like DPS. You could go for maybe a little bit of an assassination threat with Shaoye on the Kai'Sa, but still a lot of different options on the table for LGD, as they still need to pick a bot lane, as do EDG. We'll say On has kind of opted more towards more utility-oriented champions. Things like the Jhin have been really popular for him specifically. Will be a difference in playstyle if the Lucian does get locked in, and it will. So
is it the Lucian Nami slam?
We'll see. I mean, that's become very, very popular in competitive play, specifically the LCK. Even in the LPL, we've seen, I think, Jackie Love play the Lucian Nami, and we're kind of
more and more recently. I think specifically NIP, Leave has been popping off on it. He had one performance where he ended up with 14 kills in about 12 minutes early on. It works well as a combo, and to be honest, with this composition, you've got enough in front of you to be able to try play it through. Caitlyn, that's a little bit different right here. I was wondering with this sort of beginnings of a wombo composition, if they wanted to go towards something like the MF, instead wanting a little bit more range, you can sit further back alongside the Azir and very much allow your Skarner to step up, and it is just going to be the heavy poke bot lane. This is the thing, right? The Lucian Nami, very strong in that individual lane. I wonder now if you want to pivot instead to something like the Lucian Braum. You could use a little bit more tankiness potentially, but you do then lose out on a little bit of that extra oomph from the Lucian.
We've seen Milio also be pairing alongside the Lucian as something that can maybe be a little bit more powerful in the mid to late game. The Nami very much phase in particular, as it gets locked in here for Wink, so that's going to be the name of the game. You know, Bloxer, time ends up just being a flat circle. You know, we have our engaged supports, for all of this year, and now we're just back to 2023, where it was just picking Lucian Nami into Caitlyn Karma into just like the standard bot lanes over and over again.
Yeah, and this is very different, right? In that the bot lanes are incredibly aggressive, but back and forth. You usually look at both of these bot lanes and go, oh yeah, that's a lane bully. You win out in the laning phase with this bot lane. Well, into each other, you're in a bit of an interesting spot. LGD should be able to get the poke established. You are in a much better matchup because of the range, but if you ever step a little bit too far forwards and get hit by a bubble, you can get instantly jumped by the Lucian and pretty much popped in this situation. Even those early lever Karma shields still aren't necessarily going to be enough, so you really need to be careful to play at your range here as LGD and not get too close.
And a lot of what EDG's composition is right now has to be around that Lucian Nami. If they can get ahead, if On and Winx can find themselves a lead, that will transition into a very good mid game where they can dominate these mid waves, play around to this, Xin Zhao in the jungle for Xiaohao, and that's where EDG I think are going to want to try to play this game, where as we get later on into things, and once that Lucian damage maybe starts to fall off a little bit, that's when LGD's composition really starts to shine, where you have that wombo combo. You have all of these big team fighting ultimates that can come together and really take over a late game team fight. So I feel like that's what we're looking at here for EDG. Making sure the bot lane gets a little bit ahead, and then trying to dominate that mid game with this Taliyah, with these semi-globals. And again, the stakes of this matchup here in Group Nirvana higher than ever. While both of these teams most likely will not have the risk of having their season end, EDG still technically needs at least one more to make sure they avoid that fate. Whereas LGD, with a win here, can lock themselves a spot in the top 2 in the LPL play-in stage. Try to get into that top 8 for the playoffs. We're on to the rate for game number 1 of our series between LGD and EDG.
We've already potentially got a little bit of shenanigans right here. Wink very much going to spot this one out. Nobody's going to die. There's a little early look right here for LGD. And I think it's very interesting, right, that the composition out of LGD is far more focused around these team fights, around being able to land this top jungle mid lane combo. Hang on, don't do that. Okay, he just chucks a ward and isn't gonna get killed. I was so worried he was about to step straight up. No, all good, all good. Because LGD, we've been talking about how they very much like to beat you in the laning phase. Nayu has been great on the ganks early on, and to be honest with the Skarner, he can make that work too. They're also going to have to be careful. This is a lot of early posturing out of both of these teams. Not really sure that it's going to turn into anything too much. It'll just be interesting to see if Xiaohao is going to stick around and steal away the entirety of these bottom lane camps. I like this decision here out of EDG.
What is this? We're not in split 1 anymore. We got a Scion leashing around the jungle. Okay, I guess so. It's gonna create probably a vertical jungle situation.
Yes, exactly.
But now the thing is here, Bloxer, we're still in that mid-season patch. No matter how hard you try, those lane swaps aren't coming back necessarily. So you're gonna potentially have that debuff if ZDC gets too close to the bot lane here. So not really a threat of a dive, I believe. Really just an opportunity to try to take away some camps here for Xiaohao and set up a vertical side of the map that On and Wing can really play off of. And as I say that, ZDZ taking a bit of a beating here from Shaoye and YCX. The problem is, though, is that they're not actually getting any of this CS. And now Xiaohao, who's level 3, already forcing YCX to half HP. They're gonna go for the dive. They say lane swaps be damned. They're going for it anyway. ZDZ just gonna int here for first blood to go over to LGD, but they're gonna be able to trade it right back. A 1-for-1, plus they burn Sasa's teleport as he goes down here. I say that's very worth it for EDG.
Yeah, I think if Sasi is actually able to just stay top lane, hold his nerve, not join this play down in the bottom side, it's absolutely fine. You might even be able to pick yourself up that initial plate. And Shaoye was going to be dead anyway. Instead, you get that teleport out, you lose out onto a couple of flashes, you lose out onto some people's lives as well. Genuinely crazy, and I really like this out of EDG, because which other lane were you even going to be looking at? Which other lane were you potentially even going to be trying to play around? You very much want to be getting this Lucian Nami ahead. If falling behind would be devastating for your chances of a victory. And so yeah, give yourself that vertical jungling, give yourself that extra priority around the bottom side, and make the lives of this Caitlyn and Karma hell.
And now that Sasa had to already teleport down to the bottom lane, they can't, you know, go back to the even laning phases. They have to now keep Sasa down there and really just take a beating to this Lucian Nami in a 1v2 situation. The Aqua Prison already lands down onto him. He's going to try to fight back a little bit here with the Empowered Flame Spitter, but is taking a lot of damage down here in the 2v1. And so On and Wink are going to be able to get away from this Caitlyn Karma lane, which has so much poke, and now potentially look for another dive here onto Sasa. They're going to try to do some damage here. On almost has enough as Wink takes another tower shot, but now here's Xiaohao once again. This Rumble is not having a good time whatsoever. The audacious charge comes through, and EDG go 2-for-1, and Xiaohao will survive.
That's really impressive early game right here from EDG. They know which lane they have to get ahead. The fact that the kills are going down onto Xiaohao, not necessarily ideal, but getting ahead your Jinjiao, not the end of the world. This bot lane just going to be looking better and better. And the thing is, right, yeah, you've now managed to pick yourself up a kill onto Shaoye. But the Caitlyn Karma wants to be pushing in lane, wants to be playing with that range and bullying out this Lucian Nami. That's why you pick it into the Lucian the second that you see it. Bullying around a Scion? The Scion doesn't care. The Scion literally couldn't care less that you are pushing him about. Whereas the Rumble wants an even laning phase, wants to be in a decent spot coming out of the laning phase, because otherwise all of that damage that this champion can lay down just won't be available.
Very, very fun situation here that has been set up in this game. You know, sometimes in Group Nirvana, you know, as our broadcast kind of unfolds, we get these, you know, assignments, and we're like, oh man, we got a Group Nirvana game, but this has been awesome so far. And now Sasa's got to have to try to find some sort of trade, not in that 2v1 situation. He goes for a play onto Angel, forcing him to get a flash out. And now, that with Angel not here, it's a little bit of a win back for LGD, but I think overall EDG very happy with where this game state is. The problem is that ZDZ is not getting a lot of farm, but he's soaking up XP. He's doing all right, and most importantly, Shaoye and YCX haven't really picked up any plates just yet. We'll see if that ends up becoming a difference here as they finally get a big wave under the tower.
Plate's gonna go over. It's at least something right here, but this game already gone a little bit on its head for LGD. Luckily for them, they are very much going to be focused on playing out these team fights, trying to get those synergies between the Impale, Adanayu, and all of the other ultis available on the map. It's not the end of the world, and they're going to get that first push over towards these Grubs. Honestly, getting Grubs onto a composition that has a Caitlyn always going to be nice too. So it's not the end of the world, right? LGD haven't fallen massively far behind. I think the gold... Wow, just one tap. Okay, never mind. I didn't think the ZDZ was just going to go down there, but, you know, clearly wrong. And this is the thing. Yes, the Sion doesn't really care about being put behind, but you are still putting extra power into a Caitlyn.
Yeah, so now Shaoye is in a pretty good position, and you know, ZDZ really hasn't been able to do too much this game, and that's you know what EDG have opted into wanting to do, but you know, do feel a little bit bad for the Sion right here. Now we are getting a bit of a tower race here that EDG should be able to win. Sasi has joined his team around here. Remember, now that we've reached this point in the game, the 7-minute mark, there is no more potential threat of, you know, that lane swap bug from coming through. But now, with Nayo actually joining,
this?
I think LGD might be able to get this first tower.
So.
The problem is the wave is about to go down here, but it's not going to matter. So first tower will go over to LGD. They actually win out on things by having more people on that top side of the map.
People, and the Caitlyn already does a little bit of tower damage, despite the fact that it's very early on into the game. And EDG, they initiate this swap, and they've made it work for themselves in that they get a couple of kills right here onto Xiaohao. But they haven't really been able to push that any further forwards. Now you've got these towers down, you can swap your bot lanes back around, hopefully get these bot lanes to maul the next set of towers. I gotta be honest though, I'm kind of preferring this right here for LGD. One of the things that Caitlyn runs into is you really need to get her accelerated into the game for her to really start to be able to dome people, to be able to deal that damage. Feeding her 10 full turret plates, if they're able to play this one out effectively and she can get the top lane and bot lane tower, is a great way to set up a Caitlyn. Especially
when the whole point of that lane swap was to try and make the Caitlyn a little bit weaker down there in the bottom lane, get on and wink a bit ahead. Fortunately, has not fully worked out for them, as you can see on actually down a little bit just in terms of gold to Shaoye, who's able to pick up, you know, obviously that first turret, as well as getting a lot of farm. Just those 2 kills, most importantly. And so, for LGD, they feel pretty comfortable about where things are at. Remember, they have that Wombo combo team comp with the Rumble, the Skarner, and the Azir. If you add that high damage Caitlyn that is getting ahead as we speak, that's a pretty good recipe for success for LGD.
Absolutely, especially the Caitlyn alongside the Karma with that extra poke around these objectives, the ability to wall people off with those traps as well. See a little bit of aggression right here onto this blue buff. Now you attempting to steal this one away, but Xiaohao is here and also very strong at the moment. Doesn't manage to get the smite away though, and that's going to be a pretty big steal here for LGD. They are using their priority that they've got in these lanes incredibly effectively so far. Going to swap people about again. We're going to see the mid laners head down to the bottom side. We've got a minute until the next set of grub spawn, a minute and 30 until the next dragon is up and available. Right now you're indexing very much just into the middle of the map for these bot lanes. It keeps you in a good spot to be able to head for either of these objectives, whichever one you feel is going to be more important. And I gotta be honest, getting all 6 grubs here for LGD would be huge.
And there's a consequence of, you know, the map being split towards the top side in favor of LGD, as they were able to get 3 of those grubs, and having 6 grubs on a Caitlyn is going to definitely feel good. So I feel like LGD want to maybe focus their attention towards the top side of the map, especially if it means you can get a kill here on ZDZ. He has to use the Unstoppable Onslaught, but it gets blocked up. They don't even have to use the Impale. They can just pick up the Feats of Warfare and take ZDZ down for the 3rd time. It's a bad time to be the Rumble here in this game.
I mean, really unfortunate for ZDZ. Yes, the Sion won't care eventually, but the current Sion sat on 30 CS at 10 minutes. Who at that point had some boots and a ruby crystal. You're incredibly squishy, especially in the face of a Skarner who at that point had the majority of components towards that first item already in the back pocket. And something else that's not ideal, right? You're having to go towards that Spectre's cowl. Hang on.
Taking a lot of damage, actually gets The ace in the hole blocked by Wink. And so a little bit of aggressive play here for On and Wink to try to get some mid lane priority. Won't result in too much happening, but now Xiaohao jumps over the wall into the grub pit. Not going to be able to pick that first one up, so it is at least the advantage going over to LGD. Xiaohao should at least be able to get one to make sure not all 6 grubs go over to LGD, but now a full fight could potentially begin. YCX has to flash away here from the Unraveled Earth. Now everybody kind of on the retreat. Xiaohao still has his smite to potentially take this grub away, and will make it a 2-for-1 on this set of things, but overall LGD controlling that area 4-2.
Yeah, the fact that you managed to get 4 of them really nice in this situation. We said it's great with the Caitlyn, but it's also... Okay, a little bit of aggression potentially. Tidal Wave having to come out of Wink right there to dissuade anymore. Arn taking so much damage. Taking away the 3-4 grubs from a Scion too, who can be so effective in a side lane. Same thing with the Talia. Both of those champions can roam about to these fights so quickly. It means they can sit in the side lane, use grubs. Just well played overall from LGD. Now they're going to turn this one around into a Drake. Nothing that you can do here as EDG to stop this one. So throughout the early game, despite the fact that EDG initiate the shenanigans, it's still going to be LGD coming out on top. Small gold lead and more of the objectives to them.
And you know what, I respect it, right? You're EDG. You know that even if we lose this game, we still have another chance against RNG to try to get ourselves a spot in that top 2. And maybe they think LGD is just this pure unstoppable team. They're 3-0. They have not dropped a series so far in the Nirvana stage, and so why not go for something a little bit more creative that could potentially get your Lucianami further ahead, that could get Xiaohao in a good position. So I respect what they have been able to do in terms of attempting to go for these plays, but it looks like LGD had the right response for it, and that is a very good sign for a team like this, to even when they're thrown unique situations at them, they're able to adjust, they're able to accommodate, and now they're up about 500 gold, and they have the advantages in the grub department and are even on the dragon. So overall, I'm feeling very good about where this game is at.
Absolutely, and with first item now completed pretty much across the board right here for LGD, they're in a good spot to be able to initiate fights if they want them. Wink gonna get caught here.
He's so far forward here, has to flash away from the Impale of Nayo. So nicely done there by the Skarner, who punishes Wink for trying to clear away some of that vision in the bottom side of river. So another Summoner Spell burn. Not much to fight for over the map just yet for the next couple of minutes, but that cooldown always can be a little bit good for trying to find opportunities. Speaking of opportunities, looks like EDG might have found one here on to Sasa. Already used the equalizer, but it's not going to be enough to try and take down either of Xiaohao or ZDZ in a 1v2. So the Jin Zhao picks up his 3rd kill of the game, and is clearly the most fed person here on EDG.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very strong look so far for Xiaohao, but the rest of the team kind of falling behind, right? He's up 1,000 gold, everybody else is down by around about 500. It's meaning there's a small gold lead here for LGD. It's been expanding slowly. It's very much going to be here on Xiaohao to be able to pull the rest of his team through. Right now, grabbing a ton of turret plates here in this top lane is going to be effective. They might be able to actually burst this tower fully down. There is a push going on in the bottom lane. There's a small push going on in the mid lane. So it might be traded back right here for LGD, but still, EDG at least showing they're still fighting in this one, finding ways to get involved. And to be honest, having a fed Jin Zhao not the end of the world. It just worries me in a game where you've got a Lucian army, because this is a bot lane that is designed to win in its lane, get really far ahead during the early 10 minutes of the game, and then just exert your will on the rest of the team.
I'm curious to see what that can potentially look like, especially now that, you know, On and Wink haven't really gotten off to that big lead that they were maybe hoping to, with all the gold going to Xiaohao so far in the early parts of this one. Can they still dominate the mid lane? Can they still control waves with the culling against Shaoye and YCX? Only time will tell, obviously, but you know, I like the creativity still from EDG. They're still looking for opportunities to be creative, to try to win in these unorthodox ways, and it's a little bit different than what we've seen in some of our other, you know, Nirvana games. You know, remember the start of the season when we saw LNG against EDG? That was the most boring series of all time. Now EDG's the one being creative here. They're the ones pushing the initiative.
Yeah, unfortunately, every single time that LNG EDG have played, it has turned into an absolute snooze fest. This one, much more exciting. Flash is going to have to come out from YCX. Oh boy. He was so close to getting caught right there, even with the flash, and that would have been one dead Karma. Instead, you're just going to lose out onto that summon spell. Not exactly the worst summon spell to lose right here for LGD. It would have been much worse if Xiaoye had have also had to flash.
We love these proactive plays here for EDG. The problem is, slowly but surely, they're not really turning into kills. You got a summoner spell here, summoner spell there. Maybe one kill onto the Rumble here or there too, but the leads haven't really fully been generated just yet. And now LGD stacking 5 members here in the mid lane to try to burst some damage onto this tier 1 tower. Already the culling has been used from On. And everybody on LGD is still full HP. The redemption from YCX doing a ton to keep everyone nice and healthy and can make sure they can go for another play on this mid lane right before the dragon spawns in 45.
Dragon in 45, we've got the Herald spawning right now as well, so lots of objectives to go fight for. Isn't it ideal to have lost out onto the culling? At least you do get that redemption out, but like you said, everybody right here from LGG nice and healthy. Push does get dominated here by EDG. They are now going to get the fast track up into the river towards this Rift Herald. 20 seconds now until the Drake is going to be spawning, and with all 5 members of EDG sat here in this topside river, I'd be very surprised if LGD decide to push their way into this one. Instead, it makes a lot more sense for them to be able to re-establish mid lane control and then move down towards the bottom lane.
They take On down pretty low. Equalizer on top.
Wow.
So much long-range damage on Lucian, who again does not have that ultimate. Only has the flash available. Here comes the Tidal Wave and the Weaver's Wall. And EDG going for the full engage. Decimating Smash lands onto 2. Sauce at full HP. Xiaoye relatively low, but he's far enough away from the rest of the team to make sure that there's no additional follow-up damage that can come through from EDG. So no blood is shed, but the tower in the mid lane does not fall for LGD. And now the Rift Herald is spawned in the mid lane. Now going into that bot lane tower. Not going to be enough to take it fully down just yet. And will LGD want to go back for another play? Looks like they will. Nio dashing in, forcing the flash away from ZDZ. And it just will be the tower going down in the mid lane for Edward Gaming.
Oh, really unfortunate that LGD's tower just about falls for them. They're desperately trying to defend it right there. Nio, though, just stepping up, forces the flashes away. The Impale right there would have been massive. This is the thing, right? LGD's composition, it's got a really nice blend of non-committal damage and hard engage that they can go and play around. It's forcing EDG to be very respectful, step quite far back, but then again, the full engage out of EDG's composition works very well too. The Weaver's Wall alongside that Unstoppable Onslaught is always going to be a terrifying combo. Right now, LGD, they've got themselves that priority around the river, the Mountain Drake very much within their sights, but EDG keep forcing through the mid lane, and it's keeping LGD honest.
A lot of little cheeky dash forward. He's playing a little bit on the margins here for EDG, as LGD know that they can't really control mid right now. They don't have a lot of those ultimates available. The Equalizer soon to come off of cooldown, but not there just yet. Still no kills in this extended exchange in the mid lane. And by the way, the Dragon also still available. Will be the second for either team, as it is a Mountain Soul across the Rift. EDG now in the pit first. Culling comes out immediately onto YCX. Not going to do a ton of damage to put anybody at any lethal threat. The battle lines have been drawn here around the Mountain Drake. Xiaohao in the area to start things off. He has the first priority around the pit. Nio already using the Ixtal's Impact. Not able to get into the pit just yet. Now he starts to approach. Weaver's Wall comes out. It's going to separate the bot lane from the rest of the team. And Nio immediately goes down, but Sasi in the back line will take down On. Shut the Lucian down. He will go down in a trade, and it's a 4v3 across the map. Xiao has the smite advantage. Will be able to take away this dragon, and that will be secured here by EDG. But already ZDZ has fallen down, and Xiaoye still at full HP, using the 90 caliber net to try to escape. The whip becomes lightning, comes through from Xiaoye. They're going to finally try to take the Caitlyn down. 3 talent strike. Plus another W is there, but Angel starts to come online. But Angel, with a huge seismic shove, gets himself a double kill and wins the fight for Edward Gaming.
Angel and Xiaohao right there were playing out of their dang minds. The Weaver's Wall to kick things off completely splits the fight and leaves Nio dead right at the very beginning. The second that Nio goes in, you can see just on the top of your screen, Angel has walked up to just throw this Weaver's Wall straight through the middle, and it completely catches the Skarner out. The second that he's dead, this fight is already on the downhill, and it's only through Shaoye playing as well as he possibly could here on the Caitlyn that things are even slightly playable. Still, you lose the Dragon, and it's going to be an ace right here for EDG. This is what we were talking about, right? Yeah, their laning phase haven't exactly been the most impressive, but by God, can this team play a fight.
And that's a team fighting that we know EDG can really execute well, as just a amazing fight from Angel on this Taliyah. This is one of his most played, most popular, most successful champions of this player's career. Again, this is a guy that, even though he's on a team right now that is in the group Nirvana, Angel has been to the World's Finals at some point as well back in the day. So definitely a successful player on some of these team fighting mages. And on this Thalia pick, he knows exactly what he's doing and sets EDG up perfectly for that 5-man ace and the second dragon of the game.
This is the problem, right, for LGD. If you don't get your combos off, if you don't manage to get that Impale into Equalizer combo, if you don't get that Shuffle into Impale into Equalizer combo, any of those working out for you, then that's so much of your overall team damage just gone. That was a good Equalizer from Sasa during the middle of that team fight. Went across multiple members, but at the exact same moment, Dio is getting eliminated. Great seismic shove that just pulls him into the team, gets one tapped, and from that moment on, the team fight is as good as one. 5-0-3 right now for Xiaohao, 2-0-3 for Angel. Already got that Seraphs completed, so also got some extra survivability, some good damage as well. Overall, just going to be hitting like a truck at this point. Very rare to have a composition that includes a Lucian army where they're not the stars of the show, but so far it's very much just been Wink with these ultis, the main contributing factor for the success of EDG.
Well, now that On was able to get a couple of kills, or at least, you know, pick up some assists in this game. This is where EDG's composition truly shines at this point. Rapid fire cannon picked up for On, working towards that next third crit item. That'll be another big spike for him, but even right now, controlling that mid lane is going to be very easy for EDG. When you play with this Lucian Nami, that's exactly the name of the game. When you have Angel on the side lane with a semi-global ultimate on the Thalia, becomes even easier to try and accomplish this here. So LGD, at this point, need to kind of stack up as 5 and try to force down one side of the map if they want to try to have something happen and go in their way. The Otacon might be the focus. A bit of a death rush, though, here.
Death rush? Oh, Link just used the bubble.
He's on the face check. He's tanky, but is he tanky enough? No. Looks like he will get taken down very easily by XQW. So, well executed play by LGD. They know that they cannot fight right now in a full 5v5, so they find a pick, and now we'll go over to the Otacon.
There's the other thing you can do with this composition. Picks are going to be relatively easy. Didn't even really need to use any of the big ultis in that one. More than enough to just have your Scion walk straight into the brush. It obviously would have been worse right here for EDG if any of their main carries had have stepped up, but still, losing out the Atachan right here, all of those petals going over. The trade is going to be a mid lane tier 2 tower. That's something back for them. It means that the gold right now is still going to be a 3k advantage for EDG, but LGD, they're very much not rolling over and letting this game happen to them. They're still making proactive plays, and actually we've spent so long looking around this fight after the first Drake goes down to the next one spawning here in just 30 seconds time.
Yeah, it's been a very busy game. Even though Bloxer, the kills don't really look very, you know, explosive or anything, it's been a very back and forth, each team kind of playing this chessboard across the map. One team makes a play here in the bot lane, then EDG respond in the mid lane, and you know, we keep going back and forth with these moves. All of a sudden, another major objective back on the map, as you say, and we'll see what both of these teams want to do here in this situation. Again, for LGD, they're still down a little bit in gold, but they have now started to get a couple of these big major items. All of the top side at 2 full items or more. And Shaoye working towards that third as well. The Infinity Edge not there just yet, but it will still be very powerful as this dragon gets started up.
Yeah, On does have those 3 items completed, so is going to be hitting so hard. But once again, where is the Weaver's Wall going to be? Can you split the team fight up? So far, Angel, he's looking for it, you can see, but he's taking quite a lot of damage for his positioning.
They're still looking potentially to just try to finish off the dragon. Here comes the unstoppable onslaught. Nio tries to push Xiaohao away, using the Impale to try to get the Xin Zhao out of the fight.
Oh, again!
But Nio taking too much damage,
Wait.
and Xiaohao's in!
Oh!
But the smite is secured by LGD. They pick up their second dragon of the game, and now EDG are on the run. Everybody at half HP or lower. And XQW try to chase them down with the Sand Soldiers, but will not find a single kill. So LGD able to get the second Drake, but not any kills in response.
This is fine though. They're going to be able to extend this game for at least another 5 minutes now. 2 dragons apiece for these teams. Exactly what LGD want to do. They want to get themselves into the later stages of this game. Once this Caitlyn can be one-shotting people. Once XQW can be just annihilating people with this Azir. I really thought that we were going to see the exact same thing. Once again, Nio had gone in too far, was just going to get killed, but a clutch redemption and shields coming through from YCX keeps his team in it, makes sure that the jungler is able to be alive, get that smite away, and they're going to live to fight another day because the Baron is now up and available.
It's still very close. Even though that dragon was picked up here by LGD, even though they're still down about 3,000 gold, you can see this team fight just itching to try and really break out. If anybody, wins that big 5v5, has really been broken open. Even that ace that EDG got was a 5v3. That can really be the difference maker here. As Sasa once again getting caught out potentially. Xiaohao landing that 3-talent strike. And so that is going to be a pick here for EDG on the bottom side of the map. 4v5 across the map. Not going to be able to get anything in response to it. The Baron is just too far away.
Yeah, the fact that you see your opponent's jungler down on the bottom side but aren't able to turn it into a tower, into a Baron, into a push in the top lane or anything. It's pretty much a free pick right there for EDG. And this could well be a turn towards the Baron for EDG. If they want to threaten onto this one, 20 seconds until Sasa's going to be back available. He does have the TP, and things are just going to calm down. Just going to be a pick, nothing too much more coming through onto that one. Not exactly the ideal. I think part of the issue that EDG currently are running into is that they've got 4 very strong members, but their tanky frontline Scion really isn't actually that strong. You can see the Unending, the Hollow, very strong if you're specifically worried about Sasi and XQW, but Shaoye can just sort of one-tap him at the moment, can get through the health bar of the Scion incredibly quickly, and that's meaning the ZDZ isn't able to play like Scions often do, where they can just step up, not worry about the damage being put down, and play very aggressively, buy a lot of space for everyone else.
Yeah, we saw that even around, around that bottom side when ZDZ got picked off, and now a lot of long-range poke comes down, and oh, no. We got to pause, ladies and gentlemen. Right as the... Okay. Well, it looks like maybe that is what happened here. I don't know if the stream could hear what Kai was saying to us, but basically... Okay, we were receiving word from production. If you just were wondering why we just decided to sit still there for a second. Basically, Chrono Break has happened here. And we're back onto the Rift here for this game. Bloxer, we finally made it.
There it
Basically, what happened is there was some sort of bug that Wink decided... and EDG decided that they wanted to try and Chrono Break from, and so as you see here, no equalizer utilized, no potential bad situation here for EDG, as they're feeling very good about where things are currently at.
Yeah, significant tech issue. EDG were given the option of a Chrono Break, have taken the Chrono Break, and now we move on from a couple of seconds prior. Like you said, all of that initial explosive play that could potentially have happened does not. As you saw, there was nobody talking during that tech pause, so it is clearly still enforced that you're not allowed to talk during that tech pause. That's 20 minutes where you've just been sat there with your own thoughts, being able to think about what your next set of moves are. At the point at which you've been sat there for 15 minutes, you're definitely thinking a Chrono Break is going to be coming on. So these teams are going to be considering what the next set of moves are, and we'll see what the outcome of that is going to be.
And now these guys, they got to lock back in. So do we, Bloxer. We were talking about all these different stuff, and now we got a team fight all of a sudden. ZDZ coming forward, going to be immediately matched by a 3-man impale from Nio, but he's taking a whole lot of damage, and he'll get taken down by Xiaohao. So it's EDG forcing the initiatives, is EDG going in with the unstoppable onslaught, and now a numbers advantage, most notably the jungler for LGD out of the fight for the next 35 seconds.
Can you now turn that into getting this Baron? Wow, that's a lot of damage. On just gets nearly one-tapped right there. Redemption is going to come through. Plenty of healing available through Wink, but that is going to put a little bit of a dent in the plans towards the Baron. Mid lane was not fully secured, so this is going to be a possible LGD walk-in. They have to get through ZDZ to get there, and with no jungler, do you even want to take this fight?
Ooh, taking a lot of damage. He might quickly run into XQW, and Sasa still alive. Pops the culling. Now XQW's in a lot of trouble. And On will take him down. Knockup lands onto Shaoye. A 5v3 across the map, but the health bar still on LGD's side. Just a little bit, and Nio has respawned. So no Baron for the taking for EDG, and they will back away with just picking up 2 members.
And that's not the end of the world right there for LGD. The fact that you're able to stop that Baron from going down, yes, a couple of kills do end up happening, and you lose the flash out of XQW, that could be impactful. Still, people are going to be back up and available, at least your jungler back up and available as this next Drake is going to spawn. Mountain Drake is now on the map. We've got 18 seconds until we're going to be seeing the mid lane available for EDG. Giving over this Drake, not the end of the world though. Yeah, it gives your opponent soul point, but I think you're going to be happy with that as LGD. Not losing the Baron is the critical part here.
Most definitely, and that could have got a lot worse for LGD. Man, that must be so demoralizing. You were in such a good position around that play, then you got Chrono Breaked on, you lost your jungler. lost your mid laner, and now you give up Mountain Soul points with Angel potentially looking for a play onto Nayo, but now he's maybe caught out just a little bit. Another silent comes through, but Xiaoye will immediately flash away from it. The target though is XQW, and now Xiaohao will try to finish him off on picks to kill on the YCX. And it's a numbers advantage once again here for EDG. They find yet another pick off of just ZDZ pressing the go button, ulting down mid.
And now you've got this mid lane priority right here for EDG. They're going to be able to melt through this tower if they can actually get on top of it. Recall's having to come back through out of the LGD members to pull them back. So they are going to lose this inhibitor tower. The inhibitor may well also follow. That's going to be a massive pressure point right here for EDG. This is 2 fights in a row where, like you said, just have to press the engage out of ZDZ. Angel could come flying in as well with the Weaver's Wall, just getting caught out. It was only the support on that second fight that ends up falling. The LGD still cannot make these fights work without all of their members up and available.
They haven't had that for very often here. Ever since that pause ended up coming through Bloxer, it continued to be one player picked off here, one player picked off there for LGD, and now EDG have themselves a 5,000 gold lead once again. A lot of it towards both the bottom side here of the map for On, and then in the jungle for Xiaohao, who's having himself a very good game on this Xin Zhao.
Yeah, Xiaohao's had genuinely an incredibly impressive performance right here on the Xin. Is just constantly jumping onto either Shaoye or XQW, making it incredibly uncomfortable for them to just be able to use the range advantage that you really want to be exploiting as a Caitlyn or an Azir. It's getting pushed around so much. So here for LGD, they're going to have to find themselves that big wombo engage. The combo very, very important between Nayo and Sasa. So far, we haven't actually got to see it fully come out. We've also not been able to see a big Shurima shuffle out of XQW. Without these key teamfight ultis landing, these fights are going to be incredibly difficult, if not impossible, for LGD to be able to win.
And even though the Caitlyn's supposed to have gotten a little bit ahead in the early game for Shaoye and YCX, On and Wink really have come to play in that mid game, and now look at On's items. 4.5 in his inventory. Even though the Lucian is a little bit, more vulnerable at this stage in the game, as we start to get later on, he can still pack a punch, especially against some of these squishy targets. So LG have to be very careful walking into this river right now. Doing a good job face checking just the slightest bit to force EDG back towards that mid lane, and we again await a big play around a neutral objective or not. Now we've seen On dash forward very aggressively with these relentless pursuits, and sometimes that's come back to bite them a little bit. I think EDG has to be a little bit careful to make sure that doesn't happen. As I say that, Angel just weavers walls right in the middle of everybody, but it splits up Nayo at the perfect opportunity. Gets knocked up by 2 spells at the same time. The tidal wave, the last one there. And On picked up the kill on Nayo again. The EDG jungler is able to find the LGD counterpart.
The fact that you just get untapped through right there once again as the jungler. This is an untenable position right here as LGD. They're going to have to put on another Baron defense. And ZDZ currently in the mid lane, stopping any potential trade play where you push through the mid. It's going to make things that much harder to try play out. You do get to get a little bit close right here. Still got yourself a couple of key ultis available. This is tough though.
ZDC's teleporting in because he was getting cut off by the rest of LGD. It's still a 5v4 across the map. Nayu respawning in 5 seconds, so no chance of a steal unless some miracle happens for LGD. The smite is secured by Xiaohao. 2 flashes are utilized, and EDG going to get out scot-free with a 6,000 gold lead and the Baron buff in their hands.
So rough right here for LGD. Everything that was going right for them, all of a sudden going wrong after this tech pause. And now with the Baron buff up and available, this composition is going to be able to maul through these towers. We'll see what the setup is going to be, or if you feel like you now need to go and fight around this Drake. Mountain Drake would help so much. It would stop a lot of what we just saw right here. Shaoye just picking out On, using the ulti, taking a chunk of health out of him. Well, if you're basically just having to get through a 3 Mountain Dragon Mountain Soul, that's way less effective. Nayo.
On
he
going a
misses!
little bit far forward. He does not find the Impale though, and he's completely singled out. However, Xiaohao also was trying to fight a 1v4, but On's able to pick up the kill on the jungler first. EDG dashing forward, XQW forced to flash away. EDG trying to chase down the remainder of LGD, but it's Nayo dying for the 3rd time in a row, Bloxer, and that means that the soul point is on the table now for EDG.
Yeah, this is going to be picked up here. You can't imagine that there's going to be an LGD fight back onto this one. And yes, Xiaohao also ends up taking a lot of damage, but because he's got the Crescent Guard up and available, it's just Sasi who's dealing damage to him. And the main thing right now is that it's these key teamfight ultimates just not missing. Nio completely whiffs right there on the Impale. He's also run so far away from the rest of his team that I don't know the follow-up could have even come through. But more than that, this is now the third teamfight in a row where XQW has not used the ulti. You have to use this. You currently are a 3-item and Oblivion Orb Azir. Not using this ulti is going to be a key contributing factor as to why LGD can't get anything done.
Yeah, I mean, we were hoping to see the Wombo combo come through, right? The Equalizer on top of the Impale, with the Emperor's Divide coming on top of that one. We just have not seen that come into fruition. Obviously, when that has not been the case, EDG are able to win out on the fights, and it's a lot of ZDZ pressing the go button forward. Angel has had some really nice Weaver's Walls. Xiaohao buying so much space by just being an incredibly tanky Xin Zhao. But LGD, with this team fighting composition, have not really gotten there, even though this should be their point of the game. And now it's going to become even much harder than it originally was because you have the Mountain Soul to deal with too, which EDG were to pick up off of that last play.
One of the saving graces right now is that a couple of the members are barely going to get any stronger in this game. If you can keep holding out, right, Arn has already got himself up to that 5-item point. Yes, that's bad in that he's going to hit like a truck right now. But there's not really anywhere else for this Lucian build to go. If you can stall out long enough, maybe there's a chance that you get all of your item breakpoints on your Azir and on your Caitlyn, and then maybe they press their ultis too, and things look much better. That being said, the Sion's just going to be getting tankier and tankier. This is only a 2-item Sion so far, and yet ZDZ still has a ton of HP. He's able to just buy so much space, and just keeps pressing the go button, initiating these fights here for EDG. EDG on the other end of this pause looks so good. Weaver's Wall coming in.
And now Shaoye is completely singled out at the flash over the Weaver's Wall. Culling comes out, not too much damage just yet. The seismic shove only finds Nio, but he uses it to try to close the gap on a Xiaohao. The Xin Zhao could be in trouble. XQW tries to knock back two with the Shurima Shuffle, and the first kill goes on to Xiaohao. LGD trying to find this fight, but Angel is still alive. Wing still full HP on the back line, and it's a 2-for-2 overall on the map. EDG almost found the fight they were looking for, but Angel's the one to try to save the day.
Yeah, I mean, LGD so close to turning that one around. They managed to pick up some key kills right here. Big shutdown onto Xiaohao, big shutdown onto Arn, but the teleport coming straight back through right here from ZDZ, and they're going to continue this push. The mid lane inhibitor has respawned. If they can take down this top lane, it's going to make it so hard to step out of the base. Now you're going to go in here.
Killing, though. Yeah, Angel could be in trouble right now, but the decimating smash is huge. It lands on a 2. YCX the first to fall. Angel finally will drop as Sasa will burn him down. And now ZDZ and Wink are on the run. And so LGD defend their base. No inhibitor going down here as we have eclipsed the 38-minute mark of game number 1.
Oh boy, this game going quite long and incredibly back and forth. The Weaver's Wall is good. Shaoye gets completely caught out right here. Just about manages to avoid fully getting knocked up and murdered by ZDZ. And then on the re-engage, Nio actually picks off a relatively important target. The thing is, it's the Xin Zhao, so a lot of this initial damage isn't able to come through because he's got that Crescent Guard up and available. Once it falls, once everybody's in and amongst it, then you're able to turn this fight around. But ZDZ, again, buying so much space, so much time for Angel and Wink to be able to do what they need to in this fight. It's better. It's a better look for LGD, but it feels a little bit like a last stand, like a last desperate gasp. They're only 4,000 gold behind in this game, right? They're not out of this one, and none of their inhibitors did fall, so they are going to be in a slightly better position to step out of the base, but we've got 40 seconds until the Baron is up, and I think more critically, 2 minutes until we're going to have an Elder Drake on the map.
But oh man, you can see just the glimpses of what this LGD composition can do if they can avoid these hard engages once again. Nio once more singled out here by LGD, by EDG, and it's gonna go down instantly here in the fight. The seismic shove lands on YCX. He'll be the next to drop. It's a 3-for-0 already. Xiaoye getting singled up here by the Xin Zhao, and that's just gonna be a clean ace for EDG. Once again, Nio the one to get caught out here for LGD, and EDG are the ones to pick up this first game of the series.
Never mind. EDG, they do not need a Baron. They do not need an Elder. They're just going to close this game out right here. A 40-minute banger back and forth with a tech pause right in the middle. but taking game number 1 here in a critical series for EDG. Winning this one gets them that much closer to making it out of Group Nirvana.
And Edward Gaming, they broke the time of the game. They chrono broke us a little bit. And as soon as we came back from that pause, it was all them the rest of the way. And a big credit of that has to go to ZDZ on the Scion, pressing those unstoppable onslaughts right down the mid lane. Somehow LGD falling for it every single time. They were not able to set themselves up in the right situations. They never got the wombo combos that we were looking for. And it means that they are down 0-1 in a series here in Group Nirvana, at risk of losing their first one of this group.
It was a really, really odd game to watch because it felt very much like it was a game played in 3 parts, where in the initial plays, it's looking pretty good overall for LGD. They play the early game very well. EDG then shows that they are great at the team fights during the mid game. LGD begin to come back a little bit, and then after that pause, EDG all the way through. And I think part of the reason that game ended up being quite so dominant in the end was that the engages just weren't there. There were multiple fights in a row where XQW doesn't get an ulti off. And then also, Nio leaps forwards, tries to impale, but he's died. He's lost most of his HP by the point at which he even starts the impale. Just isn't able to find any picks. It's the point at which EDG start grouping as 5 members where the picks just stop happening and LGD just fall out of this game.
And that's a bit of a surprising fall off here for LGD. And shout out to EDG for being able to find these creative strategies that ended up working for them, finding them success, and eventually ending up in them taking this first game. It took a little bit longer than maybe they might have expected, might have anticipated, both because of the chrono break pause, the long delay between actually ending this game, and also the fact that it took 40 minutes in totality. But I think the big thing, Bloxer, is we never really got a full-on 5v5 team fight, or at least the way that LG would have wanted to set it up. It always started with Nio being a little bit too far away from the rest of his team, getting eaten up here by a Scion ulti, taken down before anybody can really dish out any follow-up damage on his team. And that's what LGD are going to have to turn back towards. I feel like overall Nio have done better on champions that do a little bit more damage, have a little bit more agency than something like the Skarner.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to see from them in our next game.
Something like the Vi, I would really like to see the Nio Vi pop up at some point. I would have liked the Nio Jinzhao as well, but obviously that one now going to be off of the board because of Fearless. It was always a little bit of an odd draft where you had those beginnings of a wombo combo that kind of doesn't fully get completed because you go for the Caitlyn Karma, and it works during the early game. There was a point where it looked like Shaoye was going to be able to deal all of the damage in that game. And Arn, he wasn't able to get ahead particularly. Yeah, there were a couple kills in his lane, but he didn't get them. But all of a sudden, once we get into these big team fights, was able to just start wrecking through people with the culling and just through the damage you can lay down as a Lucian alongside a Nami and hit that 5-item mark very, very early on into this game. You can see it right here. The mid game, it begins to look pretty good for LGD, but they're never able to fully pull it back. And from there, it's just a slow decline down towards EDG. Arn does a ton of damage in that game. Honestly, the rest of his squad don't really do that much. There's a lot more damage that actually gets done overall by LGD, but they're not quite able to finish off any of those kills, and hey, that's the way you win games.
Yeah, I mean, the damage only matters if the enemy health bar hits 0. And that's what happened more on EDG's side. And it came down to a lot of these big picks. Obviously, the poke damage from Shaoye and XQW ended up being massive, but it just was not enough to burst down the front line of ZDZ and Xiaohao. And if I had to give an MVP, it would probably be one of those two. I know that Angel played pretty well. It had some really great team fights. And I know that, ZDZ didn't have the best early game, obviously, as you see here to start off these highlights. But the way that he was able to just use these unstoppable onslaughts, I think, honestly, more effective than almost any other competitive Scion that I've seen in a really long time.
Yeah, I feel like it's between ZDZ and Xiaohao here. Both of them had very good games. I think the scoreline's a little bit more flashy for Xiaohao, but if you watch all of these big team fights that we ended up seeing, ZDZ is a massive part of why EDG was coming out on top, because he's just buying so much space right here. Yeah, he dies, but Xiaoye has to flash away. It leaves him in a much more vulnerable position. He actually still manages to chase down Shaoye in this one, and in a lot of the remaining fights, he doesn't die. He eventually gets to the point where he's so tanky that that's a big part of why there's a ton of damage numbers available to LGD. Yeah, you did 30,000 damage, but if 25,000 of that was pumped into a Scion who never died, who had 6,000 health 25 minutes into this game and never looked back, yeah, like you said, if it doesn't hit 0, it doesn't really matter. I'd be perfectly happy with either of them picking it up. I think a wild card as well would be Wink. I think Wink played a very solid game overall as well. Was a big part of setting up the early game success that we got to see out of this Xin Zhao.
It's the name of the game. It's using those Siren ultis, as I believe this is the final fight. Or maybe one of them here. There was a lot of them in the mid lane that ended up happening, I will say.
It turned into an ARAM very quickly, and luckily for EDG, they had the slightly better ARAM composition. I mean, just watch the waves throughout these team fights, right? Constantly landing multi-man waves, buffing up this Lucian, allowing him to be doing a ton of damage, keeping everybody alive as well. After not getting caught out, I'd be perfectly happy with a Wink MVP as well. This is a great show of a Shurima Shuffle that landed onto one person and barely won a team fight-ish for your squad.
Ish. They went even basically.
Yeah.
Which was about as good as it got for LGD after we of course got that pause. This was the final team fight. And again, Nayo just getting caught out multiple times. Not what is going to be able to get yourself a victory in a competitive professional series here in the LPL. This is the guy that came in as a spark plug for this young roster full of rookies and was able to do a lot, especially in the first couple of series, but did not have himself the best game here today.
Right, we will see the MVP pretty soon. Honestly, I don't know who they're going to vote for. Recently, the voters have very much been liking the supports. I wouldn't be super surprised if we do actually see Wink be able to pick this one up. Top, jungle, support. I think it's usually a good sign for your game when your tank top laner, your engaged jungle, and your enchanter support are the ones who perform the best, because it just allows your main damage carriers in mid and bot lane to not think about the game so much, to be able to just play it so much easier, so much more effectively when they're not having to put the team on their back and weave their way through team fights and, worry so much about the opposition being able to get to them.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what LGD do to try to respond here, because it seemed like they got kind of what they wanted in the draft. They got this Wombo combo topside, they got the bot lane that they wanted. EDG threw them a bunch of wrinkles in the early game, and they seemed to be able to respond to it nicely. It's just the team fights did not end up working their way. Xiaohao being named the MVP, not surprising at all. 5,000 gold ahead of Nayo at the end of that game. Very well deserved for the jungler here of EDG.
Yeah, he was a massive part of why the team was able to find success early on in the game, ganking very effectively, setting up the Lucian army for success, and then throughout the rest of the game was just constantly very aggressive, getting involved in a lot of these big team fights as well, and absorbing so much damage with the Crescent Guard too. It just stopped a lot of what LGD were looking to put down.
Yeah, and we'll see if Xiaohao can keep it up here and get EDG a spot, of course, towards that top 2. Again, a win in this series would at least guarantee that their team would continue to play on into the Split 3 of 2025. They're going to try to do that here with another win against LGD. We're going to get to that after this short break, but before we get there, we want to give a big thank you to all of you watching here at home, and an extreme thank you to our Coffee and YouTube subscribers who help level up the show. A lot of the initial payments go into upgrading the broadcast, but a huge bulk of it pays on-air talent and content creators. You can subscribe to our Coffee, which is currently linked in the chat, to unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask interview questions for our unique on-site interviews and see your name on screen once a week, as you see here. So thank you very much to all of our Coffee VIPs. We will come back with Game 2 of this first Nirvana series between EDG and LGD right after